Yeah.
Welcome everyone to First Unitarian Church of Honolulu's weekly Pau Hana. I'm going to highlight myself here. This is a time every week where we gather and we learn a little bit more about things going on in our community or things going on in the wider community. Sometimes we have concerts, sometimes we have trivia, all kinds of things. We have a very special episode, if you will, today. We have Dr. Michele Townsend Grove, who is our consulting religious educator. And mostly we're going to begin doing our normal Pau Hana where me and Michele are going to chat for a little bit. But the surprise of this Pau Hana is who the guest really is, because it's the congregation. We're going to let Dr. Michele, ask us questions so that she can get answers for the work that she has to do. I'm going to do sometimes my best to answer them. I'm going to toss it out to other people, or other people might have things to say. We're going to do a little bit of getting to know Dr. Michele, and then we're going to let her ask some questions of us. So we're going to have a little bit of a different Pau Hana today. And I know if anyone doesn't want to, participate, just find another church. No, I'm just kidding.
You're so welcoming, TJ.
I am.
Yeah, I was going to say, TJ, you may be feeling just a little bit too comfortable.
And that's how it goes, Michele.
Yeah.
Good. I'm so glad.
This is our informal time. This is our we just kind of hang out Pau Hana time. So with that being said, Dr. Michele, welcome to Pau Hana, and welcome to First Unitarian Church of Honolulu once again. Thank you for being here. The first question I always ask people is, although most people kind of know, but is who are you and what do you do? So if you could just do a little bit of that. Yeah.
And Reverend TJ, thank you. The welcome both today and every day I have met with people or worshiped with you all has just been wonderful. So definitely a spirit of hospitality, and I thank you all for that. So my name is Michele Grove, and I am an interim, which is a transitional specialist, particularly with religious education. So that's what I do. I do it with the Unitarian Universalists, who are super cool. And it sounds like you all as a First Unitarian Church fit right in. So it's been very good to be a consultant with you all. And right now I am consulting officially through June, but who knows what doors might open. Let's just see what happens. So.
Yeah, that's great. And can you tell us something about what, in general, what a consulting religious educator or interim does? What guides you? What are you looking to do?
So one of the things that we do is we look at overall shifts and changes within religious education programs, knowing that religious education is not just one small part of the congregation, that learning is infused with everything that you all do. So when I come in, my hope is that we can kind of journey together to look at what your history is, what kind of learning has come through your timeline as a congregation, what your present identity is, who are you right now as a learning people, and then that gives us a foundation to help you all design where you want to go. What role does learning, what role does religious education for all ages, children, youth, families, adults, multi-generational, everything. What role does learning have in your mission and vision? And my job is then to kind of be with you and to guide that, and actually to do a little playing along the way, because I find this really fun work. So I enjoy the play that comes with it.
So it's interesting you use the word play. One of my favorite albums of all time is Bobby McFerrin and the late Chick Corea's Play. And it came out of this idea of these two amazing, maybe two of the best musicians to ever have lived, being kind of silly together and experimenting things, but also some of the performances on it that started out silly and they were just kind of playing around turned into some of the most virtuoso, performances ever recorded of jazz music. And so can you say some more about, do you have a theology of play, or do you have a philosophy of play, and what that looks like?
I do. And even to throw out an educational term, I have a pedagogy and an andragogy of play, which is basically, throwing out all of those words. So my theology of play and my philosophy of play is that there is something about the being distracted into doing something in one way that leads us into another. For example, how many of us, when we take a shower, all of a sudden go deeper for some reason? There's something about that experience that all of a sudden we have these great ideas or these great insights. For me, that is play. So my theology of play is that there's something about it that takes us deeper, both as a community, we go deeper together, but also our own selves. We have our own journey that can kind of go deeper in ourselves. Some people call that soul work. Some people who are theists, I am a multi-faith family. So my husband is Christian and I'm a Unitarian Universalist. For him, that's where he meets God. You know what I mean? So that's a part of his theology. For me, it's a part of where I meet the holy, or what I call the mystery, if that makes sense. So here's the cool part of it. I started to really see this when watching young children. Young children know how to play better than anybody. And there is something magical that comes out of that. If we can learn from those young children, watching them with their imaginations and with their play and with their wonderment, we then can actually learn to be better human beings, because that'll take us to deeper places that we're yearning to go.
Yeah.
How was that? Is that
That's
okay?
great. Good job. You're hired. Oh wait, no, where you go? I was doing a children's chapel in Portland once. I've told the story before, but I had prepared, it was on generosity, and I was using gen words. So I asked them to come up with GEN words, and it was like, and I feed off of, I try to play with, whatever's coming at me from young people. And I had prepared for all these other gen words, and the one I hadn't thought of was right at the end, this young child right up the front, just as I was talking about giving and generosity, just says gentle. And for some reason, gentle hadn't fit as a gen word. I was thinking genealogy and generous and generation and generate, and these kinds of things. And gentle hadn't hit. And then I was like, oh, because GEN really means of the people. It means of being human, Nice. And so it just out of the mouths of babes. So
nice. That is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. So how have you been enjoying yourself so far? Any surprises along the way, or anything you found surprising or troubling or anything like that here?
Yeah, no. So first of all, I've met some pretty cool people. Some of you are here today. And so thank you all very much for those conversations. I am discovering some excellent surprises. One of them is your rich history of religious education. You have a very rich history with lots of stories. And then the other, this should not be a surprise, but it's always one of those things that I find really amazing, is the dedication. The dedicated people I have met so far who have an investment in learning or in religious education with this congregation floored me. I mean, for a congregation that is your size, you've got a really large group of dedicated people. You all have more people at your RE team leader meeting that meets the first of the month than I had in the congregation that I'm serving right now. And it has over 340 people in it. So, so when you put, size, that kind of dedication is pretty impressive. I'm also hearing some pretty cool stories. Oh, and here's the thing. You all have our whole lives. You all have been doing our whole lives for so long. at all levels.
Mhm.
That floored me. I was so excited to hear that.
The number of trainers we actually have is,
Oh my gosh.
Nan did her, she left Nan has already left a legacy of learning here by being the OWL cajoler and encourager. And yes, so, and even bringing it to a UCC church, noting her target minister who came from a UCC church in super liberal Seattle, who loved Our Whole Lives because he's like very UU curious. And then he now is the senior minister of the largest UCC church in Honolulu because the senior minister decided to sell insurance or something. He left. And so, yeah, so she's pretty crackerjack in picking her her targets. So this is pretty good. Yeah, it's wonderful. The Our Whole Lives work here. Yeah, this you know, what we often have here is, I mean, it's good to know these things. I think before we get into letting you pepper us with your questions, or I will let other people ask questions.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, I was being very silly at the beginning. But you know, can you just give us some, I know you talked about this in your sermon too, but some of your background or some of your experiences that led you, I mean, I guess mostly what I'm interested in is what led you to want to do this kind of work, the interim work, and maybe it's the play, maybe it's the experience, but whatever, can you talk about what led you to do this kind of work over and above just being at one spot and serving one place and doing that?
Sure. Yeah, no, happy to. You know, so for me, this is a calling. And just know that, you know, at one point within my own journey, I thought I was going to go into the ordained ministry and discovered that I diverged from that into education. And as I got deeper into that calling, I found that I actually enjoyed working with people in the midst of change. And I think part of the reason for that is that because change is everywhere. It's almost as if change is embedded in everything that we do. And there's a tension in change because we don't want things to change, but we do want things to change. And we're always in the midst of that tension. And I have found, at least for me, both a comfort and a discomfort with being in between those two places, you know, the not wanting to change and the wanting to change. And then to actually then work with congregations to say, okay, what does change look like? And how to do it in these playful ways, not that it is out of conflict, that it is just a part of who we are. And so I don't know what it is that is deep in me that says that's fun work, but I've enjoyed that. And I've been doing interim or transitional religious education since 2006.
Wow.
The first congregation that I served, I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I haven't looked back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. Wonderful. So you've probably gotten some of your questions answered, but do you have questions for us or things I know when coming into this situation, you must have just sort of gaps or holes or things that you're wondering. I'm going to do my best to shut up and let some of our congregants answer some questions you might have. So anything on your mind or wondering about?
Yeah, there's one question in particular that, and this is one of the places, because the other reason that I love this work is because I'm a learner. I find that I'm at my best self when I have those aha moments, those now I get it, you know, those moments. And so one of the things that I would love to learn more about is a little bit about how your congregation and your mission and vision intersects and integrates into the culture and values of Hawaii. And was wondering if you all could help me with that. You know, what would you tell me that I might not know? And assume I don't know a whole lot. Do you know what I mean? If that makes any sense. That, you know, about the culture of Hawaii, how that influences the work and the mission of your congregation.
Okay. Does anyone want to take that? I'm scrolling through for a hand. You also could just unmute yourselves if you want to answer. And it's okay to have multiple answers if people want to give their take. So.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, I think TJ is really trying very hard to get more Hawaiian language stories in our services, and I think that's great. We have one or two two at least Hawaiian people, part Hawaiian people in our church, and I think they're going to make some changes as we go along, I hope. And there's some effort at getting more Hawaiian language for everyone to be able to at least pronounce all the language Hawaiian words. The tradition of Hawaiian church, though, I don't see much happening because I think, I'll just say, broaden it out to Polynesian style, Micronesian and so forth. What I see is they don't do Sunday school. I haven't seen Sunday school. I've seen much more integration of the kids into the services.
Interesting.
Yeah, they do church together.
Okay.
And they really look good on Sunday mornings.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
Thanks, Nancy. Anyone else? Any other thoughts about how our mission and vision are working in Hawaii? And if someone has something to say that maybe it isn't, or they see ways it could be better, I think that's also fair game. We're here in our, everyone's got a drink. We can take it.
Carolyn is going to speak up.
Okay, go ahead, Carolyn.
I love learning about the Hawaiian respect and love for the land, and see it as one of the traditional Native people's stories, as far as understanding where all your gifts come from, and understanding how we need to give back. And since we are here, it's most appropriate to look to the Hawaiian. And I am not sure I've seen the differences between the Hawaiian and other Native practices and beliefs that make it stand alone, but it has enough richness of its own to certainly study it deeply. There are PhDs in Hawaiian studies now. But I love that emphasis on being generous and learning generosity from the land.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Nice. Nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Neat.
If anyone else has a
Nan has her hand up, I think.
Go ahead, Nan.
I think our social justice work now with Hawaii Bail Bond, a lot of issues about racism and so on are including our relationships across cultures here in Hawaii, and doing some very supportive stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And, if anyone has any thoughts about learning or religious education, even curricula or things that we are kind of looking at, that would be good. I can just say one thing. We just started doing a children or a family chapel on the third. Well, we're kind of started in the second. We're going to move it to the third Sundays of the month. And in those, we do them outside on the land, in a park. And the last one had a theme very much of how an island community can participate in Earth Day or helping the earth and things like that. And so we're trying to tie many of those to land and service here in an island setting and in Hawaii. So that's another area that is still in just the very nascent. Well, it's beyond nascent. We have one, so we're one month old. We have a 1 month old of Family Chapel, and it's been really, really fun. We had 32 people at the last one. So
I was going to say, I heard great stories about it. It
Yeah.
sounds wonderful. So
yeah, it was really fun. So that's another one. So if there's any more thoughts, we can also come back.
And David, is your hand up? Yeah.
Go for it. Can you unmute, David?
Mute. There we go.
There you go.
Good. Hello, Michelle.
Hi.
I'm David Friedman, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And I look forward to more. I wrote down some notes actually from your comments initially because they were so potent for me. The idea of a philosophy or a theology of play.
Nice.
And unmute. Are we doing all right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and the notions about change and about young children knowing how to play and respecting that and so forth. I just really am pleased and impressed with some of the sort of basic baselines, that you're laying out. But I had a couple of thoughts. One would be for you were asking about your becoming more familiar with the ways of the islands and local culture. And if you have not, have you been to the Bishop Museum, for example? I would urge you to take advantage of a sustained visit there because it's just
She's
an
not
awesome
on
world.
island, David.
What? The
She's
Bishop
not on
Museum?
island.
What are you talking
not-
about?
I'm talking about,
That's I should
Michelle is,
probably clarified that I'm actually living in Urbana,
Oh.
Champaign, Illinois.
Okay.
I
so
did
you're
leave
not-
that
are you
out,
going to-
didn't I?
Are you going to be coming here for visiting or residence?
Boy, I hope so. Not
Well, so
not
that's-
as residents.
Okay.
I have a 14-year-old daughter who is going into high school next year, and so we'll be staying in Illinois. However, I am very open to a visit.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if any of you, in fact, Reverend TJ, I don't even know if I've told you this or not. My husband and I were married on the largest island in
the Big Island.
2006. We eloped. And so when I say that I got the call to go into interim ministry on my way back from my wedding and honeymoon, I was literally flying back from Hawaii, and that was the last time I was here. So bring me in. I'm ready to come.
Okay.
So
Well-
anyway, so tell me what I should visit because I think that would be helpful.
Well, that would be certainly one, I think, that it's a very rich collection of historic panoramas and a collection
Nice.
of the lifestyles and culture of the Hawaiian Polynesia. And it's just an amazing place. Honolulu Museum of Art would be another one that has international exhibits, around the world from Africa to Japan, Asia, etc., as well as the islands. And the Renaissance, for that matter, and contemporary. It's very, very well-rounded, small or medium-sized. But the other thing I wanted to add too, and so, incidentally, I'm really curious now. My surprise about your not being here is to learn more about how that is going to impact and manifest what that's going to look like of your working with Art Church remotely. So I'm confused about that. And to add on to that is that I was the director of our wonderful little gallery on the Poly for some time, and we have a gallery that we're very proud of, and to just say that you would be welcome to take advantage of exhibiting children's art there, or some kinds of results and product of the experiences, visual and games and whatever. It would be, plan ahead, and you got to kind of sign up for it. But I'm sure that, I know you'd be welcome to make use of that space in some way to display the work of the children and playing and their art and so forth.
What a great idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
And to answer, I think that, you raise a legitimate question too about, how do you do this remotely? And so let me give you a little bit of background too, because the other reason that I have enjoyed change work is because I have moved a great deal in my life. My father is and was, when I was a younger child, a United Methodist minister, which is an itinerant. So I had moved about 5 times before the age of 10. And that got into my blood. And so I kept finding that I would move from congregation to congregation. Part of my moving in the past 10 years was to South Dakota. My husband is a dentist and decided to sell his practice and go to work with the Sisseton Wapinan Ayote of the Dakota people. And so we were living in Sisseton, South Dakota. One of the things that I learned is that South Dakota is not the hotbed of Unitarian Universalism. I know, that's a shocker, isn't it? I know. And so the only way that I could actually build relationships was through these virtual experiences. So from 2011 through 2018, when we moved to Illinois, where I took the job in which I have now, I learned how to cultivate relationships and programs doing exactly what we're doing right now. And so that's kind of what fed me into learning how to be a consultant. And the way you do it is you have strong people on the ground. I'm looking at you, Eleanor, who is incredible. Eleanor and Callie, both of you are just so strong in your leadership with the RE committee. And all of these other people, that are there, and Reverend TJ, you as well, the passion there on the ground is what makes it. So with me here, we can meet and intersect. I can guide, I can give my wisdom, I can help plan, I can even do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And then they can help build it from the ground and make it rise. That's why I was so excited and surprised to see so many people excited, because I was like, oh, you all are going to be fine. You've got the program there. Now let's just dream it into happening. Does that make sense? So, yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. We're gonna bring in Bill, who's got Bill Scarvey, who's, what I didn't do is ask people to just introduce themselves and say who they are before they share. We're all just so maybe we can start that now. Bill, you want to say hi and then ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Michelle, and welcome. I'm Bill Scarvey. I've been a resident of Oahu for the last 5 years, and a part of the church community for longer than that, because my wife and I were snowbirds for several years. And I'm working with a small group of people right now to see if we can put together a chapter of the CUPS group.
What?
And, did I hear somebody say what?
You might want to introduce it just to
Yeah.
make sure everybody knows. That's a great idea. Yeah.
The Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans. When we gather, we have only met for a few times, but we talk about why we are interested in doing this, and we all have, sort of a core of earth-centered theology. But what I find missing is a real kind of visceral connection with the land. I'm a visitor on this land. I'm the first of my genealogy to take residence on this land. we haven't been here for 10,000 years. So, you know, you can't say the way Crazy Horse said it, you know, my land is out there where my ancestors are buried. So, you know, if there, I'm looking for a way of finding a way to really touch the land without intruding. And I think my friends in this group are looking for the same thing.
Neat.
You know who they are.
Neat. Do you see and one of the things that I'm looking for, so we actually might find that we intersect, because one of the things I'm looking for are places where learning and education intersect with other parts of the congregation's work, like worship, like social justice, like hospitality, LGBTQ, you know, all of the different areas. And what you're talking about with earth-centered traditions and with cups, there must be a learning component in that. How, you know, am I hearing that there's some real learning that needs to happen to know how to get to that point of being in a good relationship with the land? Is that fair to say?
Yes, yes, well said.
And so if that's the case, then we've got an opportunity.
We do. Yes, thank you.
And what an exciting thing, because in that, not only is it an opportunity for those who are interested in learning that relationship, it's also an opportunity for you all to share that passion with others in the congregation.
Yes.
You know, children, youth, family, adults, because I think a lot of people are craving that kind of connection very deeply, whether they've put their kind of touched it or not. So let's
Yes.
see what happens. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
No, thank you all. That's great.
Wonderful. I know, Kimberly, did you want to chat a little about readings to suggest? Did you have? Yeah. Let's see.
I don't really have anything in particular in mind, but Dr. Michele, there's all kinds of wonderful things out there. I don't know if any of you are familiar with a book called Lono, the story of Lono. It was written by it was written by one of the 60s radical writers. I can't think right now. It's fiction, but it gives an interesting view of visitors coming for deep sea fishing excursions and a different version of Captain Cook's visit here than is usually told to visitors.
Okay.
It's a short little book.
So
I will look it up. Thank you.
Just as a note, Lono is one of the four primary gods of the Hawaiian religion.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
And his descends is closely tied to the rainbow, descends to Earth during the time of the Makahiki on a rainbow bridge, more or less, and brings the time of Lono is the time of peace, is the time of the Makahiki. And there are some stories that about whether the first Hawaiians really or didn't think that Captain Cook somehow was Lono. I've heard all kinds of different takes on no one would be that fooled. They were just kind of going along with it. Anyway, and so I'm hopeful that maybe that story is a retelling of some of those, I think, sort of apocryphal stories that may or may not be true.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Reverend, I'm gonna go try to get my copy of the book.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Great. Marie has her hand up. Marie,
Yeah,
please
hi.
join the conversation.
One of the things that, well, when Kimberly started talking, and I see, of course, Michelle's taking notes, I thought in your research, one of the best publishers here is Bess, B-E-S-S,
Okay.
Best Press. It's hard to say. Best Press puts out a lot of Hawaiian, and especially Hawaiian for children's literature.
Nice.
I went to their sort of factory store to get Ordinary Ohana. So they published that, and They
Okay.
also are very generous in welcoming Hawaiian-based or Hawaii-based authors for events in their space. They're sort of like, they own a bookstore, but also own a publishing press. Yeah,
Great.
they're quite awesome. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Thank
use
you.
their stuff in my classroom. It's really,
It is my head. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, I am. I'm taking notes. So-
now we have gone about 15 or 20 minutes on this topic, and we could do a whole Pau Hana on it probably. But I did want to The Curse of Lono by Hunter S. Thompson. Oh, well, there you go. If you want a
Got it.
stylist for the ages, it's probably quite a read. Hopefully it's early Hunter S. Thompson, otherwise it might be a little hard to follow. Do you have any other questions? If you want, we can kind of go on this, but I thought you might have some other things you wanted to explore.
I do. And, because, the whole concept of how you all view and value learning is of interest to me. So I have two questions, and you can answer either one. One of them is, are there any stories of learning from your congregation where you said, this was a very powerful moment for me? I learned something and it was powerful, so it took you to a deeper place. That's the one question. The other question that you can also answer is, if you have really cool stories about Reverend TJ, I'm taking notes. Okay.
Okay. Please focus on the first one.
Okay, fair.
But if you have, I'll just start it off. I'm a relative newcomer to the community, and one of the things that was happening before I was still on contract was a decision about whether to stay or whether to go in the building and what to do. And
Oh no, come on.
two of our wonderful members, Junco and David Davis, led the congregation, and many other leaders too, but sort of spearheaded a coming to consensus approach and not a vote tyranny of the simple majority process, and really had many presentations. It was about 9 months of work that went into with significant research, takes on one things or the other. And I know in the end it was a consensus to do what was there, and there was so much of even folks who were afraid or who didn't agree being heard, but even then in the end deciding that they would go with what folks were doing. I know it wasn't 100%, but it was very close. And I think that was like that kind of learning and undertaking a multi-dimensional, sort of multi-faceted approach to the learning, and not letting go of the feeling and recognizing the emotions while also doing the actual numbers and having to do all of that together and then make this decision was powerful. And then watching the people who then made it happen accomplish the virtually unthinkable inside of a year with their own hands and transform our building into what it is now was also hugely powerful to watch. So I just was a little sermonizing there, but for me that was like one experience, but it's one that's sort of recent. There may be others that folks have. So
Nice, thank you for that.
Yeah. Anyone? You can just Janice has got her hand up. Go ahead, Janice.
Hey, hi, Michelle. I'm Janice. I really love ritual.
Okay.
And some of the most powerful moments have been in a service where there has been some sense of ritual that we have performed, whether it is recognizing the changing of the seasons and citing the verses about north and south and wind, and some of the Jewish holidays that we have adapted. I learn more towards that kind of a thing than a lecture where we're taking notes. I've always been really interested in comparative literature, and the worship team does a wonderful job of bringing in philosophers and Old Testament and Quran into the services and weaving it in the sermon. But I would like to explore those kinds of traditions that the Unitarian Universalists draw upon that we have in our 10, what are they?
Principles.
Principles, thank you, thank you. You know, we cite them in our principles, but I would like to see those expanded upon, where we draw our wisdom and our knowledge and our questioning as part maybe of an adult education.
Oh, and that could be so much fun. And especially too, because, and I'm also assuming you're including the sources in that.
Oh, absolutely.
And boy, that kind of exploration is a lot of fun, and it can go deep. And what's neat is it's not just about lecture, it's about experiencing it.
Exactly.
You know, so how is it that you could actually kind of live into it and then learn while you're doing that? Yeah.
And it helps you connect with other religions and philosophies. One of the, just a brief thing, one of the funnest, most enjoyable time I had in religious education for adults, for those of you who remember Charlotte, we all do, we had a couple sessions where we explored the Twilight Zone. And there are Unitarian writers and part of the production team that are Unitarians. And it was so fun watching episode sections and saying, oh, that's Unitarianism. I bet that, you know, just kind of playing with modern up-to-date media or experiences and being able to tap in and recognize that and say, hey, you know, he's one of us or she's one of us.
Yeah.
Just, it was just a fun thing to do, you know?
Oh, it's fun. In fact, I've been working on a my own curriculum on the theology of Star Trek.
Yeah,
And
there you
so,
go.
you know, because there's so much there, and there's a curriculum out there for middle schoolers on the theology of Bart Simpson, which is fascinating. So, you know, you can play with kind of modern culture things, icons, movies, stars, you know, whatever. We do a thing right now called Popcorn Theology, and the place we had some of the best conversations was around Marvel comic movies, you know, Black Panther and Captain Marvel. So it's just amazing how you can intersect what you believe, your Unitarian mission and vision, with what's happening on the big screen or in music or all of those things. So, all right.
Thanks
Thank you
so much, Janice. I see Catherine Graham has her virtual hand raised.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Hi, Michelle. I'm Catherine Graham, and I'm a graduate, a proud graduate of the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. And, and my very first Unitarian experience was at the Channing Murray Foundation in Urbana. So that was kind of my introduction to Unitarianism when I was 20 years old.
Nice.
So I'm originally from the Chicago area, and I have been here for 42 years now, here in Honolulu. And I think some of the most profound experiences that many of us had was when we had a very active women's group, HUWF, you know, and we had a woman who was, you know, brought the Cakes of the Queen of Heaven and all those feminist theology curricula. And it was just a really, really meaningful time. And I think, you know, when we're trying to start this CUPS group, it's a little different because our other focus was really on women. And so I don't, you know, we've had some pagan presence with men and women, but not as much as we had with just our women's group. And we had an annual women's retreat where we brought in people like Mary Gregolia and the one who wrote the Cakes for the Queen of Heaven, whose name is Shirley Rank. Came. We've had and Shirley Rank's daughter was in our congregation for a while. And, you know, we've had some really, really great things over the 40 years I've been here, you know. But right now we don't have any of that. And those of us that really remember it are now in our 60s and 70s and 80s. And we need to somehow learn to pass that torch. And we haven't been very good at that.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Very good.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Mike Model, and then we're going to go to Dave and Junco. Go ahead, Mike.
Right. I haven't been here for 40 years, but I've been here for 22 years in this congregation. And I also have had, I think, some marvelous experiences with adult education. And I'm going to refer mainly to the tag team that we had operating for quite a few years of our then minister, Mike Young. Hi, Mike, shout out to you. And Nan Kleiber. Nan, shout out to you. And the two of them did a number of courses that I was lucky enough to be able to take. Over the years, we did Build Your Own Theology. We did a course on the Old Testament using Isaac Asimov's books. We did a course on the New Testament. We did a course on the Jesus Seminar. But one of the ones that I recall best was the course that we did based on that book called Doubt. I don't remember the author. I have the book downstairs, but that was a wonderful course, a real eye-opener, studying the history in quite a bit of detail of theological doubters over the last couple of thousand years. And I learned a lot from that course. So thank you, Mike and Nan. And I would love to see that kind of thing happening again as we move forward into the future.
So, and Mike, before you go, because I also heard this earlier, is there a hunger for lifespan learning, adult learning, as well as kind of the focus on children, youth, and families? Would that be fair to say?
I'd give that a big yes. Certainly, I feel that way.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. Okay. 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 That's helpful. That's helpful. Neat.
Yeah. We'll go over to the Davises.
Even though the name says David Davis, my name is Junco Davis. And in your introduction, hello, welcome, Dr. Michele. I've been out of off island, so I missed your sermon, but I know it's recorded, so I'll try to catch it.
Right.
It's good to have you aboard here.
Thank you so much.
So in your introductory remark, you mentioned two words that are just so meaningful to me. You said mystery and wonder. And, you know, we're really good with social justice and getting things done and learning things, and I love all of them. But we don't really talk about mystery and wonder because we like to have answers, right? We like to come up with a good answer and this is it, and this is what we need to do. And all that's good. I mean, I've been, well, not on this island, but I've been a UU for 50. How long as long as we've been married, 56 years. Oh my gosh, 56 years. So we're a long time UUs. And you know, as Catherine's mentioned, you know, with the women's group, we touched upon that mystery and wonder, not just about women's issue. And I long for that. And sometimes what I tend to do is find my own way of this mystery and wonder. And, you know, for me, it's a Buddhist tradition, but it doesn't matter because UU has that as part of our, what is that called?
Source.
Yeah, the sources. And there are other sources. I mean, I've heard Christian, you know, people talk about the same experience that people from different religions, so-called, talk about. So it would be really nice if we could have that kind of element into our church. I would be delighted.
That's nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is cool. So.
Just having some trouble clicking. There we go. All right. I'm going to scan through.
Eleanor.
Eleanor. Okay. And then I see Marie's hand too. Using the clicking hands is easier for me, but however we're going to do it is I'm doing my best. So go for it, Eleanor.
You get my awkward dance. Who doesn't want my awkward dance? So I did want to thank you for that question. My name is Eleanor Kleiber. I am a longstanding member of this church. And I wanted to bring up Jubilee as well as the follow-up sort of weekend retreat with a group of women. Because I think it was, I will speak for myself personally, it was all of those times were like quick moving learning experiences. And I think it was a combination of being in a place that surrounded by people that I truly deeply trusted, as well as being incredibly uncomfortable. And so having those, like, you could scoop the lack of comfort in that room sometimes. And I think that's like a catalytic space for change and for learning, definitely for me. Not that I go out and seeking lack of comfort, but I know that it's good for me. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Okay. Neat.
Great. And then I saw Marie, right?
Hi, yeah. Hi, Michelle. I didn't say this last time. My name's Marie. And it's kind of been my idea, or what I wanted to say is, we've touched on it here, is when I was at the Unitarian Church in Eugene, Oregon, we had I don't remember how long it lasted. And obviously when I say it, it could be what you want, but we had a series on religious education where the imam, the priest, a minister, whatever, came from that particular faith and spoke and did a class. And I attended all of them. And to me, it was fascinating because I think part of it was learning from, we'll call it the source, rather than me getting up there and talking about being a Muslim. You know what I mean? They could really answer the questions and help us understand. Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's all, but it's just, I hear that kind of here too. It's all about just that learning.
I think that's great. And this is everything that you all are talking about now, mystery and wonder, that place between trust and discomfort, exploring the faiths with the people who are both the leaders and the people who practice those faiths and who hold them dear to their heart.
Yes.
Where are those spaces that, we can put ourselves, whether it's a class or whether it's an experience. I think part of it's also, these are all opportunities to build relationship. And that's crucial. To me, this isn't just about what happens within the walls. And I use walls kind of loosely because our walls are hard to define now. But where is it that, we infuse that with relationships beyond First Unitarian, Church of Congregation of Honolulu, but, beyond into the community itself and build those relationships. So, what you just named was awesome on that. You could build some amazing relationships by inviting people into those kinds of learning experiences.
Yep. I don't know if you've talked about it at all, but we are a part, meaning our church, and TJ is a big part of it, and I've been working on this for years, is we are a part of the Nu'uanu Valley say it again, TJ.
Nu'uanu Valley Interfaith Thanksgiving Service, NVITS.
Yeah, Interfaith Thanksgiving Service that we participate in every year, which is all of the churches up and down the Nu'uanu Valley that we're in. And so those relationships, you're right, are so important because we're all a mystery to each other in some ways. The Nu'uanu Valley Interfaith Thanksgiving Service is the oldest and longest running one ever. It's what are we at, TJ? 60 years?
Yeah, it's I think it's 60 years next year. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Good. And I see Jill and Mike. Another comment here. Hi, Jill.
Hi. Michelle, I'm Jill Rabinoff, and I've been really involved for the past 5 years in the adult level of our anti-racism work at the church. with the ADORE program, a dialogue on race and ethnicity. And I was just wondering if in your work with other churches and whatnot, if you've done work with the children about anti-racism, and if you could bring that into helping our families with that.
Thank you for raising that, because the answer is yes. And with each year, it gets more and more of an important, crucial element within the transition work of religious education and Unitarian Universalism. There's no doubt. So one of the things that's happening, which is a change for interim religious educators, and this is also a change for interim ministers. The Unitarian Universalist Association has decided that this is so important that they have brought on a full-time staff person who is paying attention to anti-racism, anti-oppression, and implicit bias work within transitional situations. And that's Patrice Curtis, Reverend Patrice Curtis, who is just brilliant. They bring so much heart to this work and so much knowledge. And they're also an amazing storyteller, so that when Patrice tells stories, it just draws you in. One of the things Patrice is doing with all of us in this work is to say, not only are you doing change work, you need to make sure that you are doing anti-racism work in the midst of that. And I'll be checking up on you. I'll be asking. So so now there's accountability, and that's been one of the things that's been missing. So, and Patrice is doing this with the interim ministry. They used to be the Guild of Interim Ministry, the Guild of Interim Ministers, and now they changed. They're a chapter. So I'm not quite sure what they're called now. And Patrice is also doing it with Geyer, which is the Guild of Interim Religious Educators, in which I'm a member. So I hope to have those conversations with you. And I also hope to learn, because you all have been doing this work for a long, long time. For example, I have the feeling you all have some perspectives on widening the circle of concern that are beyond anything I've thought of. So I'm really looking forward to all of those conversations and to hear your stories and to ask those questions as we're doing this kind of discerning work. Does that make sense?
It does.
Thank you for asking. That's awesome.
And thank you, everyone. We are at about time here. So Dr. Michele, thank you so much for, your 5-hour time difference. So we're gonna let her close down for the night. And so thank you so much for being here. And thank you to the congregation for having such a good sense of humor about being the actual guests and me not telling you were going to be the actual guests for Pau Hana. So thank you for that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful evening. And let's all, if you want to, we'll go into non-forced spotlight mode, and we can say good evening to everyone. You can go into gallery view if you want now. So yeah, so thanks everyone.
So good to meet you all. And thank you for this evening. I have really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
We're glad.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Michele.
All right. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Yeah.
You too, TJ.
Good night.